Friday. It's so good to be here. I'm outside because it's a beautiful day out on the playground here at Shepherd. I am wearing a crown to remind you that we've been talking about kings. And we know that some kings are really good and some kings are really bad. And we've been learning about the importance of making good choices. We have seen over and over and over again with the Israelites and with the kings and different people through the Old Testament and the Bible that people, when they don't follow Jesus, problems happen, right? So even with us, when we choose to sin and go away from God, we have problems too, right? So we've been talking about Daniel, and remember, Daniel lived in Jerusalem, but King Nebuchadnezzar took Daniel from Jerusalem to Babylon and was one of his helpers. And remember, we've talked about Daniel in the fiery furnace, and King Nebuchadnezzar using him as to interpret his dreams about the tree and his other dreams that he had. And today we're going to talk about from Daniel chapter 5. It's the writing on the wall. So there was a time that King Belshazzar, remember, he was the grandson of King Nebuchadnezzar, and at this time Daniel's about 90 years old. So David had lived in Babylon for many years. He became an old man there, and all of his life Daniel tried to do what God said. And King Nebuchadnezzar liked Daniel a lot. Daniel was one of the best servants that King Nebuchadnezzar ever had. Remember, he had a dream, and he was worrying about the dream, and the king called all the wise men and the magicians together to the court to tell him what the dream meant. But nobody knew. Nobody could tell him what they wanted. Okay? Daniel was one of the king's wise men. He told the king he could tell the dream, and he would not tell the dream through magic, but he would tell the dream through God's power. Because Daniel's not a magician. Daniel's not there to say, it's whatever the sky says. No, Daniel believes in God, and he cares about what God says. Daniel told the king the dream was about a statue. The statue's head was pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, and its feet partly of iron and baked clay. A huge stone rolled down and crushed the feet of the statue, crumbled and fell. Daniel told the king what the dream meant. The parts of the statue represented the kingdom of Babylon and the kingdoms that will come after it. Someday there will be another kingdom, and that kingdom will be the kingdom of God. It won't be King Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. It won't be Daniel's kingdom, but it will be God's kingdom. And it's going to come, and it's going to be stronger and more powerful than all the other kingdoms, because God's got the power. The kingdoms of this earth will come to an end, but the kingdom of God will last forever. Remember, he had his dream about the tree that was as tall as the sky. And after 7 years, he admitted, King Nebuchadnezzar realized that God was the only God. Okay? So there was the new king, Belshazzar. He was acting as the king of Babylon after King Nebuchadnezzar. And he had this big banquet. And a banquet's like a big party. And everyone at the banquet was having a good time. And King Belshazzar wanted to impress all of his guests. So for us to impress our guests, I'd have cupcakes and cute little table decorations. But he knew that there were some special cups, some gold and silver cups, that had been stolen from the temple of God in Jerusalem. Should they be using those cups? Did they belong to them? No. Belshazzar did not care that the cups were only to be used in God's temple. He wanted to impress his guests at his banquet, so he ordered the servants to bring the cups so the guests could use them. When everyone began drinking out of God's special cups, a giant hand appeared out of nowhere. It wrote words on the wall. The words were Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. None of the king's wise men knew what the words meant. The king was very frightened. He really wanted to know what the words meant. Finally, the queen said, "We should ask Daniel." Of course, because Daniel knows everything, right? Daniel was an old man now, but he used to interpret the dreams for King Nebuchadnezzar, so he was brought by the queen to see King Belshazzar. Okay? Daniel got there and he saw God's special cups being used. He remembered those cups from Jerusalem that were used specifically in the temple, and he saw them being disrespectfully used at this banquet. And he knew that Belshazzar was not respecting God. And the king was like, "I'll give you lots of money to tell me." But he didn't want the money. He told the king what the writing meant. He goes, "Mene means that your days are numbered. You will not be king for long. Tekel means that you have weighed on God's scales and you are not good enough. Peres means that your kingdom is divided and another country will take away your kingdom." The king knew that Daniel said was true. King Belshazzar knew that the kingdom was not always going to be his. That very night, an army came and took over the kingdom of Babylon. Now the Medes and Persians were rulers over the land. The Babylonians were no longer in charge. King Belshazzar no longer had power, and now the Medes and the Persians were in charge. And it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen next with Daniel and the people of Babylon.